right, guys, so day 2, we are going to add on that GCF piece. We talked a little bit about it yesterday, that common factor. If you look at your flow chart, notice where it falls in the flow chart hierarchy. Where is it at? The top. Right underneath factor is GCF. So what should you always look for first? The GCF, that greatest common factor. Okay, so today we're just going to work on adding in GCF and putting it with what we did yesterday. Okay, not rocket science today, just adding in one more thing to it. All right, so we're going to start real slow. Can you just tell me what the greatest common factor is? Meaning, what is the largest number that divides into all of them? Kelsey? Good. On this one, it's 2. That's the biggest number that divides in. Here? Good. In here? Somebody said it. 12. 12 is the biggest number. If you're somebody going, how do people know that? What could you do, or what would you have to do? You'd have to make the list, like we were doing yesterday. Options for A, your options for C, and you make the list. You look for the biggest number in both lists. Okay, so that's what you're looking for, is what is the biggest number that divides into them? That's your greatest common factor. All right, what if I have X's involved? Doesn't matter? It is. If they both have an X, that's the greatest common factor. All right, here's the way I think of this. I'm really not this mean of a mom, I swear. But my kids, they all get in trouble. They did the same thing together, and I'm going to punish them. Okay? They did the same thing wrong, so I want to be fair, right? So I'm going to take away from them as many toys as I can. Is it fair to take away 6 toys from my son and only 3 toys from my daughter? No. Okay, if he has 6 and she has 3, I want to take the same number of toys away. I'm trying to be fair. Okay, I'm taking the same number of things away from them. So if I'm looking here, one of them's 2x, one of them's 6. Okay, what's the number that goes into 2 and 6? 2. Do they both have an x that I can take from them? No, so I can't take it. So that is not part of my GCF. I have to be fair and take it from everything the same. So in this one, the GCF is just 2. What about 3x and 12x? 3x. 3 is the number that goes into both, and they both have an x, so I can actually take it that time. We want to be fair when we punish our children, right? Your parents may not be with you, but I'm trying to be. All right, good. This one would be 4x. 4 is the number that goes into 8 and 20, and one of them has x squared, 2 x's, and one of them has 1, but the most I can take from both of them is just 1 each. Okay, got to be fair. All right, let's actually practice factoring out that GCF now. Now that we know what it is, we're going to practice taking it out. So when you factor out a GCF, it's really like undistributing. So what is the GCF between 3x and 15? It's 3. So I'm going to factor him out, pull him out front. It's like you undistribute him, and you will divide everything by 3. So what we're doing is we are dividing. So 3x divided by 3. It's just x or 1x, and that's 5. Can you check this work too? Yeah, if you distribute it back, you should get what you started with, right? 3 times x, yep, 3 times 5, yeah. Now, the most common mistake I see students make is they pull out that GCF, they divide it out, and then they don't write it down, right? A lot of times people like, oh yeah, it's 3, I divide that, and they're like, my answer is x plus 5. What happened to the 3? Did you throw your kids' toys in the trash can and got rid of them forever? That's kind of mean, right? You're going to give them back eventually, right? Don't get rid of them entirely. Or a lot of times I think of this as we kind of get going in this process. He's kind of like your baby brother. He's tagging along. He's there with you. You can't get rid of him as much as you want to. He's just there with you. Keep him beside you. Make mom happy, kind of thing. So don't forget that. All right, so the next one. What number goes into all of those? Did you say 3? I'm sorry, what did you guys say? It'd be 2. And a 4 goes here, but 4 doesn't go into 18. Can I take an x from all of them? No. So just 2 is my GCF. So you're going to divide them all by 2. So what do we get here? Good, 9x squared. And then minus, this gives me 4x. minus 6. All right, one other thing, we kind of talked yesterday about like a trick for factoring. If it has that GCF in it, we knew it didn't really actually go there, things like that. Same idea here. Look for that GCF. If there's still a GCF sitting in your parenthesis, then you didn't take out the biggest number. I say people do that a lot. Like, I should have taken out an 8 and they only took out a 4. Well, look at what's left. If there's still something common, then you didn't take out the biggest thing. All right, how about the next one? 3. Can I take an x? No. So divide them all by 3. Good. And you notice how I have a 5, a 15, and a 4. Nothing goes into all those. I know I took out the biggest thing. Now, the argument always comes up when we're getting into the factoring and putting all this together. Students are always like, but it still works, even if I don't take out that GCF. Agree. You can still factor without taking it out. But it's kind of like leaving a fraction as 2/4. You wouldn't do that, right? It's not simplified. It's the same idea. It's you simplifying what we're working on. All right, let's try some more GCFs. GCF in that top one, 24x to the 4th minus 8x cubed plus 32x squared. 8? Good, 8x squared. 8 goes into all of them. They all have an x. They all have 2 x's. They don't all have 3. So I can take 2 from each, right? Got to be fair. So if I divide out 8x squared, what do we have left here? 3x squared minus plus. Good. If you notice on those first couple, I kept writing divide by on all of them what I was dividing out. Okay, if you need to write that, go ahead and write that. But hopefully we get to a point eventually where we can just kind of write it down and just kind of go with it. Makes things a lot faster. All right, how about 15x cubed plus 27x squared? Good. So if I divide them each by 3x squared, what do we have left? Good. Ooh, what about that last one? Good. The number that goes into both is 5. Good. That one only has one y, so I can only take 1. And that one only has one x, so I can't take any more than that. All right, what do you have left? Good. Questions on all the GCF stuff? Just finding what goes into both, dividing it out. Just don't forget your baby brother, write him down, okay? Write him down in front. All right, reminder of our signs from yesterday. We're going to kind of put all this together now, right? Last one's positive. They're the same. What's that mean? What's same sign mean? Peyton, say it again. Good. When I set up my parentheses, it means they're either going to be both pluses or they're going to both be minuses, meaning they're the same, right? And last one is negative, means opposite signs. What's that mean? Good. One's a plus and one's a minus, right? All right, let's put it all together. So from now on, every single problem you look at, the first thing you want to look for is your GCF. So is there a number that goes into 8, 22, and 6? 2. Do they all have an x I can take out? No. So let's go ahead and take out that 2. Tell me what you have left after you take out the 2. Good. So we divide everything out by 2. And now let's do exactly what we did yesterday. So this right here, notice I have 1, 2, 3 terms. Have you guys noticed what your exponent always is when we're factoring? It's an x squared. Okay, I want you to start to recognize these things, because eventually I'm kind of throw all this at you at once, and you have to be able to recognize stuff. Everything I've taught you so far is it always has 3 terms. So if it doesn't have 3 terms, you can't factor it. As of right now, you can't factor it. And everything we're factoring has an x squared to start. It's always an x squared, then there's an x, and then there's just a number, right? Let's make sure we remember that. So if I give you something and you're like, yeah, I can factor that further. No, you can't. Okay, if it doesn't have three terms and an x squared, an x, and a number in that order, then you can't do it. Okay? All right, so from yesterday, we would set up our parentheses. Our last one's negative, so what are your signs? Plus and minus. Okay, options for A. Options for C. Do you see how my numbers got smaller since I took out the GCF? Otherwise, up here, you would have had 1 and 8 and 2 and 4. You'd have 1 and 6 and 2 and 3. You'd have more options. But since I took out the GCF, I don't have as many options. Makes your life a lot easier. All right, do you want to go 1 and 4 or 2 and 2? 1 and 4? 1x, 4x? 1 and 3 or 3 and 1? 1 and 3? All right, I'm going to use the shortcut to check because I'm lazy. So my inside ones give me 4x. Remember, you're multiplying. The outside ones give me minus 3x. No. Switch the 3 and 1. That would be the next obvious choice, right? So flip-flop that 3 and the 1. Yeah, remember, we talked yesterday, when I put these in here, I don't ever switch the first ones. The plus minus, when I switch that just changes the sign of the number. So since I had 1x down here, if I flip the plus and minus, that'll make a negative 1x. But if I flip the 1 and the 3, I try this again, that gives me 12x minus 1x, which is 11x. Now I need to switch my signs, right? Because the number's right, but the sign's wrong. So that's the plus. This is the minus. Is that a good answer right there? X minus 3, 4x plus 1? Where's your baby brother? You left him behind. Mom's going to be really mad at you. Don't lose him. He comes down. He's tagging along. He's pestering you, driving you nuts, but you got to have him or Mom's going to be real mad. Okay? I see that a lot. And you know what? Every time you leave your baby brother behind, it's minus 1. On every single problem on the test. Can you imagine? All right, you want me to take off more? All right, take a look at the next one. What's the first thing you always look for? GCF. Is there a GCF in this problem? Can I take any x's? No, so just 4. Let's take out a 4. What is left when I take out a 4? And again, if you're not sure if you took that out right, just kind of do a mental check. If you distribute that back in, do you get what you started with? Just make sure. All right. Can I try to factor this further? Does it have all the characteristics I need? Do you have 3 terms? Is there an x squared and then an x and then a number? Okay. We want to try to factor it further. My last one is negatives. What are your signs? Opposite. Plus, minus. Okay. Options for A. 1 and 2. Options for C. Well, we like that. Look at the original problem. Had you not taken out your GCF, 1 and 8, 2 and 4, you would have had 1 and 12, 2 and 6, 3 and 4. You had a lot of options to deal with. But if you take that out, I don't have many options. So we'll go 1x and 2x. You want 1 and 3 or 3 and 1? 1 and 3. So if we check this, we get 2x. That gives me negative 3x. That gives me negative 1x. How'd we do? Oh, I wanted a negative x. I got my negative. I'm okay. Good. Don't forget your baby brother hanging out here. He comes down. And there it is. Ooh, those numbers look big. Ramon? Sure. Ramon, what's the first thing I look for? Good. Is there a greatest common factor in this one? It is 2. Are you sure it's not 4? Okay, yeah, it's not 4. All right, so if I take out a 2, what do you got left? Because what am I looking for? In order to try to factor further, it needs to be 3 terms, have an x squared, an x, and then a number, which it does. Okay, I just want to make sure we're kind of drilling this into your heads. That's when you know when you can look further. Last one's positive. What are your signs? Good. So should they both be plus or both minus? Good. They're both minuses. All right, Ramon, options for A? Options for C? What's your first option? What's your first option? See, your class is helping you out. I want your list, right? All right, so we got our options. Where do you want to go? You want the 2x first and then the 1x? Okay. You want 5 here? 3 over here. Okay. Should we check this? See how we did? All right, so that gives me negative 5x. That gives me negative 6x, which makes negative 11x. How do you do? Big bro? Not baby brother, man. He is tagging along and driving you nuts, right? Don't forget him. There we go. Yeah. Because you're very creative this morning. How are we feeling with this whole process today? Doing all right? Yeah? All right. Let's take a look at this one. Does anybody notice right away what your exponent is? Oh, that's x cubed. Everything we factor should be x squared, shouldn't it? It should be a red flag. Yeah, it's usually a red flag, but you could probably take an x out. All right, what is your GCF here? I agree with the x. And 3? Yeah, so 3 is the number that goes into all of them. And then don't forget to look at those x's, okay? I can take an x from each of them. A lot of times students look at the number and they forget the x's out there. So if you take out a 3x, what do you have? Beautiful. All right, from there, does it have the requirements to try to go further? Yes, I have 3 terms, x squared, x number. You got to make sure you have that. So we'll set up our parentheses. Last one's negative. What are your signs? They're what? One of each, plus minus. All right, options for A. Options for C. Now, it's still a lot of options there, but look what it was before that. 36, which even had more options. All right, so we got 1 and 7, so that's pretty easy. 1x and 7x. 1 and 12, 2 and 6, or 3 and 4? I heard 1 and 12. I heard 2 and 6. Ramon? 6 and 2? All right, let's check what Ramon's got going on here. 6x, or 6 times 7x. Anybody else worried right now? That's what you told me to do. That's exactly where you told me. No. Why? I can just split the 2 and the 6. All right, let's check this again. That gives me 14x minus 6x is 8x, and we want negative 8x. So you're right, flip my signs. That's a plus. That's the minus. Good? Baby brother, look, he's got a friend. I did flip the signs. I didn't flip my work because I didn't need to. I realized it was wrong, flip my signs, done. I like that you guys are noticing things, though. That's good. Why did I set up like what? because I always write 1 then 7, so by default I write 1x and 7x. The way my brain works, smallest to greatest. I don't know. All right, guys, let's try this one on your own. There we go. There's the answer. Okay, so that was the last one on that section, right? Okay, from here, I'm going to give you guys the rest of class, which we got a good chunk of time. You do have a homework assignment for the weekend. I'm going to pass out to you. And then you can also work on IXL. So you can take your pick what you want to work on now. I don't care. But homework is due Monday. IXL is due Thursday.